Hi, I'm Stephanie Nazario, a public relations major, and today I have the pleasure of asking Dean Grimes 10 questions.
Stephanie, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much.
I'm so excited to do this. Are you excited?
I am excited. Looking forward to it.
So, starting with the first question, and some may know, some may not know, you have such a great, impressive career. Tell us what you did before coming to PACE and how it has prepared you for your new role.
Well, thanks so much for that. PACE is the culmination, I think, of a number of years of working in higher education. I started out as a psychology faculty member because my doctorate's in psychology. And so I started working at South Carolina State University a long time ago. And I stayed there for about 9 years and became department chair. And then I moved back home to New York. I had gone to South Carolina because my husband is from there. His family was ill. We took care of them until they passed away. And then we moved back and I found a job at Iona College. And I stayed there for 15 years. And for 7 of those years, I was a professor in the classroom. And for the last 8, I was assistant vice president for academic affairs. So I moved to the provost office. And then I got an opportunity to become a chief academic officer at Bloomfield College, which is in New Jersey. And then I had the wonderful fortune to be selected for the deanship here at PACE. So it's been an exciting journey during my career.
So you kind of touched on what brought you to PACE, but if you can elaborate more on what brought you to PACE and specifically Dyson, and then following up, what do you feel is our greatest asset?
Wow, really good questions. Well, PACE has sort of been in my background for most of my life. When I was a little girl, my mom worked for the city of New York. And as you know, City Hall and all those major offices are pretty much in downtown New York. Well, I used to see every time I went to her office, PACE University. I also saw Sims and Century 21, which is very sad that they're closing. But in any event, I saw PACE as a kid, got interested in it, but never thought about working here until I saw the ad. And I thought, well, let me see if this is a great opportunity for me. And guess what? It was. And so I'm really excited that for all of my life, PACE has been a part of my life, but now it really is a part of my life. I think the greatest asset that PACE has is the enormous number of really fantastic people. PACE has wonderful faculty, staff, and students. Every person that I've met has been devoted to the idea of opportunitas and has been devoted to the idea of the PACE path and really committed to seeing students progress. And that for me is a tremendous asset, and I'm very glad and proud to be a part of that.
This kind of is like the last question, but more so, what is your impressions being here and being a part of the PACE community?
Well, I think like for anything, until you're a part of it, you really don't know. I thought PACE was impressive, but I really am impressed with PACE. There's such a wide variety of things you can do here, a tremendous amount to learn, so many different places you can study, so many different fields you can study. And so PACE really is impressive when you're not a part of it, and it's even more impressive when you are. So my impression is that I made the right decision, and I'm glad that I'm here.
I feel the same exact way. I'm so happy I chose PACE too. So you're a new dean, and a lot of us want to know, what are your priorities as dean, and what is your vision that would shape Dyson's future?
You know, I think I've been here about a month and a few days. And during that time, I think the things that have been clearest to me are that we need to continue to develop the PACE path. We need to continue to make sure that students know where they're going, have a clear direction about how to get there. And we need to make sure that if there are any stumbling blocks in the way, that we get those out of the way. So I feel like my priority as dean is to make sure that everything is in order so that that path is clear, so that students don't find stumbling blocks, so that if I see something that could be improved, then I make that my mission. That's my goal. I think I'd love to see us move forward with helping students stay in school. Particularly, retention is a big deal. We work so hard to get our students here that it's a shame to lose them. So I'm looking at the ways that we can improve retention. I think for me, that's goal number one. Um, what are the things I as dean can do? I think I can look at curricula. I think I can speak with faculty. I think I can speak with students to see the kinds of things that could be helpful to them along the way. And I think I also want to figure out who we're getting to come to PACE, because I think that makes a big difference in what we do, where students are coming from, the kind of skills they had in the past, the things that they need to know and to learn so that they can be successful. So for me, that's primarily my goal now. I'm sure some of those will change, but right now, just making sure that we've got a path that's clear, make sure that we've got structures in place so that students can be successful, and to eliminate those roadblocks wherever they may occur, because that is really essential for what we're doing now.
For sure, and I love that so much. And I think it's so important that we find out or try to figure out who is pace attracting, because
Yeah,
then we can really branch out and really do more here.
exactly.
Um,
I agree with you, Stephanie. You know, I think the world is a bigger place than we imagine. And one of the things that's happening in the Northeast is that this population of coming out of high school students is shrinking. Now, in other parts of the country, it's kind of big, but here it's shrinking. So I think we have to be nimble enough to say, you know, we'll get students, but how can we get more of them? And then we have to think about other populations of people that might want to come to school, like adults who haven't completed their college degree. How can we make it easy for them to come to school, you know, when they can at night, in the evenings? That's the kind of thing that I think PACE could really contribute, and it would be a great investment for us as well.
yes, definitely. And I just think you're you're visionary. So you'll help us guide us in the right direction.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I think we're gonna shift gears here a little bit and go more into getting to know Dean Grimes.
Okay.
So starting with the poet Mary Oliver once asked, "What will you do with your one precious life?" Was there a defining moment in your life which you knew what you wanted to do?
You know, it's very interesting, Stephanie. Um, I knew I wanted to be a psychologist when I was a child. And I say that because for some reason, people would always talk to me. Even when I was little, I remember adults coming to me and talking to me, and I would listen. And it seemed like whatever I said helped them. So I thought for a very long time, maybe I should go into therapy. But I stayed in psychology and I went into developmental psychology instead. And one of the reasons that I did was that I was interested in research, number one. But then number two, I felt like whatever I learned, I could apply to different parts of the lifespan. I could help people at different seasons of their lives. And so I wound up doing psychology. I knew when I was young, I was going to have to get a doctorate. That was a little scary, but you know, you have this choice between psychiatry, which is medical, and psychology, which is more therapeutic talking. And I said, well, I wasn't sure which one until I did dissections in high school. And I said, okay, now I know which one. I'd rather do psychology and not the dissections. And so I wound up in the field. And my second job, being a pastor, I still listen to people. So it seems like I was right on as a little kid. And I'm glad I followed my gut on that.
I love that. That is so. I I never did dissections. It was never a part of my high school curriculum, and I am happy every single day that I
You
never
know,
had.
the geek part of me liked it, but I figured it was okay when it was a frog, but maybe not so much when it was a person. So
Yeah.
I sort of chickened out of the psychiatry thing.
No, yes. I completely, my sister is well, she was a biology major, so she always told me like the different dissections she did, and I always was like, I don't know how you do it. I
Yeah,
truly do not know how you have the stomach for that.
it's, even when I was in my doctoral program, one of my favorite courses was on hemispheric specialization. So I think the geek is still in there, the part of me that loves bio and science, but I didn't know if I could handle the whole cadaver thing. So really, I just gave up and went for psychology. But I still get to talk to people and I still get to help them with their problems. So that's good.
Okay, so moving on, is your role model and what inspires you?
Hmm. That's such a good question. In some ways, I think I have to say my mom. Um, I had some professors along the way who inspired me. But truthfully, I have to say the person that gave me the push and the person that gave me the courage was my mom. My mother was married to my dad until they divorced. I was about 5. And from then, she was a single parent. And she was a fierce mom. Um, I'm kind of laid back. My mother was not that person. And she spent her life telling me what I had to do. And what I had to do was go to college. And I had to do that because she didn't get an opportunity to do that as much as she wanted to. She had 3 brothers and she could take a few classes. But in her day, the boys were the ones that were supposed to go to school. Sadly, none of them did until they got to be grown men, and then only one of them did. So her opportunity she missed. But she told me, I think, as I always say, from the womb, you have to go to college. You have to go to college. Her strength, her determination, her perseverance, being the child of immigrants. Her family came from Jamaica. She was first generation American, but she had so much passion for life and so much passion for education and so much passion to help people move forward that I think she really is my role model. She gave me that backbone and she gave me that push and it led me forward. I am also grateful for my professors who along the way saw potential in me and said, you've got to keep going. You've got to keep going. And so I think I have a couple, but if you ask me that first one, I think it was mom.
I agree. My mom is definitely who inspires me. She is very much similar to your story, actually. She's a single mother. She raised 3 girls all by herself, where she never got to go to college. She actually wanted to come to Pace.
Yeah.
She wanted to study nursing at
Wow.
Pace, and she never got to do that. And I actually found out about Pace through her because she said, well, why don't you just look into Pace? I think they have a great program for you. I think that's it for you. And when we came here, I was like, yes, this is my school. This is where I want to be. And without her pushing me constantly, I wouldn't have probably even came here. And it's definitely great to know and realize that. But also I agree, professors are such a big role model. They push you and they try to help you as much as they can. So that is great. I love that so
Thank you.
much.
And I love the similarity. I think a lot of first gen college students share the same story that we had someone in our family that really wanted to go to college, didn't get the opportunity, and so they pushed us really hard. And I will say that that understanding of that led me to do my dissertation on attachment relationships. So I took my interest in psychology and I added to that my own experience as a person who needed that push and who had that tremendous family support. And I found, even in my dissertation, that it didn't take a professional always. It just took someone who gave you the push, someone who gave you the direction, someone who cared about you And if they cared about you, it might not be a teacher, or it could be, it might not be a parent, or it could be, but somebody who cared enough to push and see your potential. We are really fortunate, both of us, that we had that.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, another similarity is you're a native New Yorker. I am too.
Yes, all
No.
right.
Yes. So, what is your favorite thing about this city?
The thing that I love about New York is its diversity. When I lived in South Carolina, and South Carolina is beautiful, I had a beautiful home, had a great big backyard. I didn't have to go to a track to walk and exercise. I could just walk around in my yard. I could grow things in the garden, all wonderful. But some days, and because you're a city girl like me, some days I just wanted to ride a bus. Can you imagine that? I just wanted to get on the bus. Some days I just wanted to see the L go by. Some days I wanted a knish, and I wanted a Nathan's, and I wanted Chinese food, all in the same day. And New York is that place where I don't care where I go in the world, there's no place like home. I know I sound like Dorothy, but there's no place like home, because the smells are just different. Life is, the people are just different. I had friends, and I'm not as young as you, but I had friends of all races, all colors, all ethnicities. My Spanish speaking friends could teach me a little Spanish. My French-speaking friends could teach me a little French. My Jewish friends could teach me about Hanukkah and about Yom Kippur. I learned so much about other people being a native New Yorker. I could hear a West Indian accent on one corner, and I could hear Spanish spoken on the other corner, and it was all good. And I missed that when I was away from home. So it's really good to be back. And it's nice to have the opportunity to be in the city a couple of times a week so I can feel that again.
Yeah, I have to agree on that. I go to Pleasant. I'm on the Pleasantville campus, and
Hmm.
even though it's not really far from the city, and it's not. I live in the Bronx, so it's not far from the Bronx.
Yeah.
But some days you just really want to hear that train,
Yeah.
or you just want to go to the 24-hour bodega. Like
Yeah.
you really want to just go down and walk and feel that culture of the
That's
city.
right. I want that 25-cent bug juice in the little plastic jug. When I was little, it was 25 cents. I don't know what it costs now. It was no good for you, but it was just the familiarity of space, and, as you said, of cultures that were so rich. Um, so I love my home. I love New York.
Yeah, I truly, there's no place like it. And like you said, we're not Dorothy, but it's definitely, there's no place like being at home. Okay, so what is one thing as the dean we wouldn't even guess about you? Like, what is it like? Is there a hobby you did that we would be shocked by? Is there something that you want us to know about you?
You know, that's a good question, and I've been trying to think about the most unusual or different. I think maybe that I love HGTV. I love watching the rebuilding of old homes. I love that stuff. You say, how boring is that? No, I think for me, it's a sign of hope that I can binge watch people buying homes, people renovating homes, because it reminds me that there's hope, even when things look bad, even when things are really decrepit, that if the right people come along, they are going to be able to see the potential in it. And I think because that's who I am as a person, that I like to see potential, those shows make me happy. So yeah, no one would think the dean wastes her time watching home shows, but I love home shows. And every now and then I love cooking shows too. So those two things, I don't get a lot of time to do it, but those two things really do speak to, and I think even cooking speaks to my love of seeing things come together and seeing their potential and making something happen. So I think there's, the psychologist in me saying, well, maybe that's just you expressing yourself, that you like to see potential and you like to see it come together into something beautiful. So that's I'm not that interested, honestly.
Okay, so as dean, what is one thing you would like Dyson and School of Education students to know?
As Dean of Dyson and the School of Ed, I would like students to know that even though they don't see me every day, and even though they may not even know what I do, they are always on my mind. In every meeting, um, with all my homework and assignments and committees, they are always on my mind. I'm going to be the person that asks the question, how can this benefit the students? What can we do to change this for students? They need to know that I may not always do what they would like, because the truth of the matter is we can't always do what students would like, but I will always try to do my best to ensure that whatever we do leads to a positive outcome for as many students as possible. That means some might be mad at me about some things that have to be decided. Some might not like my choices, but in the grand scheme of things, I think the dean's responsibility is to not make everyone happy all the time, but to try to establish the best path for every student. Some may have to make adjustments, but the best path for every student to maximize whatever budget we have so that we give as many students as possible the best experience possible. So I think I want them to know, even when they disagree with me, they're always on my mind. I may not be able to make them happy, but they're always on my mind.
I love that. I feel like I'm always on your mind.
You will be on my mind, especially now since you did such a great interview.
Thank you so much.
You.
One of my favorite questions to ask is, what advice do you have for students, for alumni, for anyone really? What advice can you give us?
I think a couple of things. Don't give up when things are tough. All of us are facing very challenging times now with the virus, with racial unsettling going on in our country, all kinds of things that we see that pull up our heartstrings, that make us very sad, make us very angry. But I would say don't give up, because I am convinced that if we continue to do the things we're doing, to fight for right, to do the best we can to help other people along the way, um, I think it's going to come together. I think it's going to work out. So I encourage you, don't give up, um, and find positive ways. I think about John Lewis and what he said, good trouble, not just trouble, good trouble, the kind that leads to positive change, the kind that leads to something better for the next generation. I'm a grandmother now, and I want to see my two granddaughters have a world in which, what Dr. King said is still true. I want them to be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And so what I would say to every student is, let's push for that world. Don't give up. Let's push for that world.
I think that is a great note to end on. So thank you, Dean Grimes, for
Thank
taking your time out of your busy schedule.
you.
It was a pleasure, a great pleasure to speak with you. And
Likewise.
on behalf of students, I want to wish you the best in your new role.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. You were a pleasure to meet with today.